The North Carolina Tar Heels have secured 2 top 30 recruits in the class of 2024 in less than a week, and now they have the #1 recruiting class in the cycle. It may be early, but this is a big deal. Jason Jordan and I are going to tell you why.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, it's Tuesday, January 3rd, 2023. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Schade, and I want to thank you for joining us and making this your first listen or watch of the day. Well, I was prepared to make this show today, Tuesday, all about Elliot Cadeau's commitment to North Carolina and why this is a huge deal, a phenomenal elite point guard, but it turned into a much bigger conversation on Monday evening. Why? Because big man James Brown also committed to UNC, and so that means that in less than a week's time, Carolina had turned themselves into the #1 class in 2024 at this early juncture. So before we get into talking about those guys, I wanted to try to figure out why is this such a big deal to get these early commitments from these recruits to go along with Drake Powell. So here to help me do that and unpack it all is Locked On College Basketball Recruiting Insider, Mr. Jason Jordan. I'd like to thank LinkedIn Jobs for being the official college basketball recruiting sponsor across the Locked On network. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. So post your job right now at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions apply. Jason, great to have you on. Happy New Year. So glad to have you. And as we turn to the new year, North Carolina, within the course of a week's time, has secured 2 top 30 commitments from Elliot Cadeau and James Brown for the class of 24 cycle. Interestingly, I want to talk about both of these guys individually, and we're going to do that in just a bit. But first, I want to discuss why it's a big deal to have already made this much headway this early on in the recruiting cycle. Obviously, we know that Carolina had already secured a commitment from Drake Powell and now get this one from Cadeau and Brown. And so you've got a diverse class at this point, a playmaker, a big, a small forward. Why is it a big deal to have this many guys committed this early?
Well, you know, it changes your strategy because a lot of times coaches and staffs are scrambling. Like the reality is, and any coach will tell you this, a lot of times, most schools are just kind of throwing, not that they don't want, you know, they want the specific guys they give offers to, right? But, you know, you can't control somebody's, decision. So to have that firmed up well in advance, it opens up different options for you via portal. Or if and then you have things secure for the spring when you decide who's still there and who's not there and things like, and then people can reclass and, stuff like that. And obviously we'll talk about that later, but, it is a great asset to have things done early because it just gives you more options and it gives your strategy. The strategy is more so in your favor, because you have those options and you have things in tow, and you guys have a great class in tow, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, it's massive to get a playmaking point guard that people are going to want to come be around, and say like, oh, that's the dude going to be getting me the ball. I'm in on that. Is that part of the consideration for other recruits? I know North Carolina has several other offers out there. When they see somebody like Elliot Cadeau, are they saying, man, that's a dude that's going to be getting me the ball at a high rate and often. I want to go play with him. Is that part of the consideration?
1,000%. Even bigger than it was better than having a class, a #1 class already. A year and a half. A year now. A year and a half in advance. Is having the #1 point guard in that class a year and a half in advance, because that's the #1. People want to know how they're going to get the ball. Let's just be honest. These are egomaniacs we're talking about in a great way. So when you have a guy who is that pass first point guard who only learned to score in the last 3 years, his words, not mine. But he thrives off playmaking and getting his teammates the ball. Obviously, he can score, but he's a pass first guy, and he thinks a pass is better than a shot. So everyone knows that about him, and so everybody loves to play with him. And so having that guy, and he's the top guy in that class at the position. So having that guy in tow is immeasurable on the recruiting scene for sure.
And it usually feels like at this point, early in a cycle, we're hearing movement from a Duke or a Kentucky. Does this signal in any way to you a shift in philosophy or things like that for Coach Hubert Davis's staff of getting some commits earlier, or is it just so happens these guys are committing earlier and it's to North Carolina?
So I think it's a little bit of both. I think clearly he was all in for Elliot. Like, I know that he was keeping in touch with Elliot quite regularly, personally. And I just text because, recruits know that texting could mean that somebody else is texting for you. Right. I won't say who, but I do know some staff are known for not sending their own texts, So, but I know that Hubert sends his own text. And so it comes through on the text from what I'm told. And so, but he would always also call and FaceTime and just so it's me. It is me. Yeah. Call,
Can't hide behind that. Yeah.
And that all speaks to priority. And these kids want to be a priority. I mean, he's a top point guard in the 2024 class. And when you show them and you go out of your way to show them that they're a priority, and not only are they a priority, and I'm taking out this time for, I'm the busy man, but you're not even a senior, right? And so but I want you so bad, that I'm going to call you personally multiple times throughout the week. I'm going to text you personal multiple times throughout the week, and that stuff matters. And he did that, and you got to tip your hat to him. I mean, obviously, he's had a heck of a month, Good to be Hubert Davis, right?
It is good to be Hubert Davis. I'm sure they would like to get a few more W's in the win column, but on the recruiting trail, things
right. Let's make that.
So, as you look at this, Jason, and as I said, you've got now a lead playmaking guard, you've got a small forward in Drake Powell, and you've got albeit a little bit undersized, a center in James Brown. What sort of foundation is that? And then, with the, as you alluded to a little bit ago, the uncertainty of what could happen with people either transferring out or leaving to the NBA draft, knowing you've got the possibility of transfer portal as well. What does this foundation allow the Tar Heels to do?
Well, I mean, it makes the sell even more strong because it's like you can say, hey, got this. We got Elliot. It's not like we want him. We got him. You know what Elliot does. We got James. You know what James does. They're stars, and you can add with Drake. Drake's a role player. But you're the missing piece. You're the missing piece, and they can do that sell. But it doesn't ring hollow when you have them also texting that kid, because I'm sure that they will also be texting. They'll know who to text. And so they'll be like, yeah, did you talk to coach today? Yeah, man, we did. And then they'll come with the same messages. And all these things matter. They sound trivial, but all these things matter but they sound trivial to people that are old like us.
Yes.
But then you got to remember, these are teenagers. They don't have fully formed brains yet. And so, this stuff, it's big for them. Like, man, Elliot hit me. He said, I don't even talk to Elliot like that. I know he's probably a one and done, and I can play with him. Wow, that's big. Something I really got to consider. I'm telling you, I've heard this. Like, this isn't even abnormal. Like, this is actually what they say normally to me, a reporter.
Yeah.
So I could only imagine what they say in the locker room talk, in the gym, in the weight room. It's like, at the dinner table. So that is huge. That is huge to have that foundation, because again, it doesn't ring hollow because it is already intact. I can show you it on paper. You saw the commitment graphics.
Man, that's great stuff. Well, we do want to get into talking about Elliot Cadeau himself, more specifically his recruitment, what he brings to the table, who he reminds us of, things like that. But before we get there, This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. As a small business owner or hiring manager, you know that success in 2023 all depends on the team members you surround yourself with, like Elliot Cadeau, right? That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs, which can help you hire qualified candidates more efficiently by matching open roles with people who have the skills, values, and experiences to help you achieve your goals. LinkedIn Jobs helps you quickly attract qualified candidates to your open jobs with targeting tools. You can identify those candidates on LinkedIn Jobs and connect with them fast and free. LinkedIn Jobs makes it easy to screen and rate applicants based on your qualifications, all there on one platform. You want to achieve your business goals in 2023, and hiring the right team member might help you do exactly that. That's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus the leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. So post your job for free right now at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Again, that's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Well, Jason, we've already said it, but North Carolina and Elliot Cadeau is getting a true playmaking first point guard. A little undersized at 6'1", 165. It kind of is that the question mark. We'll look into that. Cadeau plays at Link. I'm all in the LinkedIn thing right now. At Link Academy down in Branson, Missouri, but he's originally from New Jersey. Hubert Davis has a guy that he likes. Picked UNC over Louisville, Texas Tech, Texas, Kansas, Syracuse, others. And folks, as you look at the 247 side of things, he is the highest rated commit to North Carolina since Mr. Cole Anthony. Well, Jason, you've already said it. By about every recruiting service I've seen, he's the #1 point guard in the class, a top 10 overall playmaker. You've already said some of it, but what are your thoughts on Elliot Cadeau and his game?
Well, I think he's the best passer in that class, right? He's great off of high ball screens because that's when the world is his oyster. So when but the thing is, he doesn't need a screen to get by you. But he can maneuver better because he reads the defense really well. So he's legit a quarterback at the point guard slot. He told me that he grew up learning to pass back. He averaged in middle school. He told me he averaged like 11 assists a game, but then they were like, "Hey, you got to score too," and he was like, "Oh, score? I don't, but I like to pass." This is a mentality. This is foundation, So it makes sense that he would grow up to be the best passer in the class, right? So, but he said he actually joined I guess junior high. He joined not as talented league just to focus on scoring. So, and that's only been in the last 4 years, maybe 3 years, where he just was focusing on scoring. And so obviously that's caught up too. But his foundation is to be a passer and to see things that are gonna be there in 2 seconds or 2 plays. And you can see his wheels spinning if you really watch him. He's always, head on a swivel, delivers precision passes, and he throws to areas, so he knows where his teammates like the ball. So he's always studying his teammates, and he's worthy of that #1 spot at the floor general. And he's truly an extension of the coach on the floor. Obviously, suffice to say, huge pickup for Hubert Davis, and one that I think will pay huge dividends in a lot of different ways before it's all said and done.
Yeah, and Jason, I don't want to overblow this, but I think for a lot of Carolina people, they haven't seen a true playmaking point guard since Kendall Marshall was in Chapel Hill. Right. And as I watch game tape on Cadeau, man, I feel like I see a lot of those, like with Marshall, it wasn't about the athleticism. It was about, that vision, his ability to pitch ahead. Right. Basically full court outlet passes to a big in transition. When I watch Cadeau's tape, I see him doing that on multiple occasions. Yeah. Is it inappropriate to talk about him in a Kendall Marshall-like way?
No, the thing he does have, where you said it's one about athleticism with Kendall now, Elliot will put you on a poster too. Right? Elliot has a 45-inch vertical.
Yeah.
That is the difference, right? So, yeah, you're right in that regard, but he also has that sick athleticism where it's like Caleb Love. Like he's gonna pike on you too. Like don't get it twisted. When he's coming off that screen, you better step up or you're going to be on a poster. He's done it multiple times, and that is absolutely a part of his game. So he's a physical guard too. Like, he's going to take the contact and finish or find and get a piece of the paint and kick out. He's very, very smart, high IQ guard. So, yeah, I would say the difference is he does have that athleticism, and he is physical as a driver. For sure.
Always fun to watch these dudes at 6'1" get up and put it down.
Yeah.
That's fun. And I mean, I think that clearly is going to make him all the more dangerous. In like North Carolina now under Hubert Davis is utilizing that pick and roll game so much with RJ Davis and Armando Bacot, for example, kind of running that. But when you have somebody, even more so than RJ Davis, is looking to, like, if I've got a guy open, I will find him, or I'm by you in a flash. And so that is clearly going to be a phenomenal part of his game and what he's able to do. One of the big questions is if that will happen in 2023 or 2024. As you alluded to a little bit ago, there is certainly a reclass possibility with Elliot Cadeau, who is already 18, by the way, folks, if you're unaware of that. So, Jason, what have you heard on that possibility from Elliot?
Highly possible that he will reclassify. I really think, to make it really simple, I think it really comes down to, is Caleb there and is RJ there? And here's one of those good problems, right? So it's like, I think, because with NIL, you can't jump out the window. I do think Caleb will roll out.
Yep, I'm with you. Absolutely.
Right. So I think Caleb's probably going to leave because, even from a marketing, NBA guys look at it different, yes, but even specifically with guards, the longer you stay, it becomes like a why. And, for business moves, you kind of got to jump out there and get it how you live, to put it just bluntly.
Yep.
So I think he'll leave. The question is RJ, because Elliot wants to be one and done. There's no doubt about it. He's always that's known, right? So if RJ's there, then you got Seth. And Seth is like, all the fans are excited about his future, that type of thing. Everybody sees that he could be a, vital piece eventually. And he gives good minutes now. So it's like, I think if Caleb leaves, I think he'll come. Right. Okay. But I know, obviously if Caleb and RJ are gone, obviously
that's a no-brainer at that point.
The keys. But I'd be curious about if RJ stays, and I think he will.
Yep. And that's the thing. If assuming RJ stays, then not only is it RJ and Seth, but you've also still got DeMarco Dunn. Simeon Wilcher will be there next year. And as you've said multiple times on this show, Simeon Wilcher is not going to sit on the bench. This dude is going to be a dog, and he will be in there playing. And so, it really feels like I'm with you. Caleb is gone after this year, but if Elliot comes in and RJ's still there, man, you've got a very crowded backcourt, which maybe signals in some way like, hey, is Hubert Davis going to legitimately, in like a Scott Drew sort of way, commit to a consistent 3-guard lineup? That might be what's in the cards there, especially if Armando Bacot's gone and you're trying to figure out lineup configuration.
Yeah. Well, he might have to because, DeMarco Dunn's not playing over Elliot Cadeau.
No.
I don't think Seth Trimble's going to play over Elliot. Well, they're not going to say that. I think Seth is a bad man, right? And I think people are starting to see that he's not just a backup. I think he's going to be a star there in Chapel Hill. So, and then the thing becomes is like, you better be careful about losing that locker room, boss. It's a good problem because it's we're talking about, oh man, where are we going to put this talent? But it can be an issue. And I've heard coaches agonize over these things. And, but at the end of the day, it's a business. And so, they're going to do what's best for the team.
That's right.
And so if Elliot is like, nah, I'm cool. As long as Caleb's not there, I'm good. I know I'm gonna be all right then. And he's got it. And I think that eventually, I think that's what ultimately will happen.
Yeah. And that's the nice thing for Hubert Davis and his staff in the Carolina program is it legitimately seems like Elliot is saying, like we've heard him say, If the spot's there and they need me, I'm in for 23. If not, cool. I'll stay in high school one more year. I'll come in 24. And I think that flexibility helps even more with that foundation that we talked about previously, that it's like you got all these possibilities. And so Carolina is in a great spot. One way or another, Elliot Cadeau will be a Tar Heel within the next couple of years. And you got to imagine, Jason, one of the happy recipients of many, many, many Elliot Cadeau passes will be James Brown, who committed to North Carolina less than a week after Cadeau did, just at the tip of the new year. James Brown, a center from Chicago, plays at St. Rita, 6'9", 210. And as always, rankings aren't the end all be all. Currently, though, he is, just to help most recruiting sources, he is in the low 20s. And so, Jason, as we switch from the backcourt to the front court, what are you seeing from James Brown? And no song references.
I was about to say he's on the all-name team for sure. Yeah, well, he had a big summer with Mean Streets. Everybody knows about Mean Streets. If you know about the EYBL, you know about Mean Streets.
That's right.
A legendary program out of the Windy City. So I think he averaged 11 and 6 for them, but just a worker. That's the best way to describe him. Like, it's not like, I wouldn't say he's a guy you point to and say, oh man, he's dominant at this. I think he's just a dominant, high energy guy, and at his size and at his length, that just checks off a lot of boxes on both ends of the floor. So he finishes with both hands. He's not a guy who's going to be confused about who he is. He's not going to step out and run the point. He's not really even stepping out in the 15 feet sometimes, but that's not his game. Yeah. He really does stay in the paint.
Yeah.
And he really, he seems to be content with that, which I think can't be overstated, because a lot of people are not content, especially bigs. That's because everybody's KD, right? Everybody's KD. But he's not the guy who is trying to be something he's not. He's definitely a guy who accepts his role and masters his space. And that is in the paint. That is in the blue area. And, he's a high energy, very efficient, great hands. And so we talk about the Elliot Cadeau factor. I mean, a guy like him looks at Elliot Cadeau and he's like, oh, I could be the recipient of some great passes, So and I know I'm a high level, efficient finisher. So I'm going to do well with Elliot Cadeau in the lineup. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Especially as somebody like watching tape on him, man, he gets out and goes in transition. He's not lumbering along. And so if he can get out ahead, man, and look for that pitch ahead from Cadeau, he's in great shape. Speaking of, like, I've also seen in some of his tape where he is out leading the break himself, like even kind of some give and go. Is that just a product of what's happening in high school and he can get out and do it? Or is that something that actually translates to the NCAA level?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But again, he's not a guy who's he's not like a point forward. And
exactly.
Wants to be. You know what I'm saying? And
yes.
I say that I have to make that distinction because
no, I literally have that in my notes. Yeah.
Most kids think they are, and most kids do. And they're like, yeah, I hear this one all the time. When they say, when I get there, I'm going to develop my guard skills. And I'm like,
okay.
But he's not that guy. So that's great. But yes, he can do that, ignite the break, get the ball ahead and run it up and, get it back to your point. He did that a lot in the summer.
Yeah. I literally have that in my notes. I'm not going to call him a point forward, but he can get out and lead the break.
Yeah, he can. And, but I don't think I don't think that'll be his role. Does it translate? Could it? Yeah. But especially with the personnel you guys have, I mean, I think it's just an added benefit, right? Like he can do that.
That's a good word. Yep. But young man, you get out and run, go find the basket. We'll get the ball to you.
Absolutely. A rim runner, high efficient finisher, around the rim for sure. And he can use both hands. So that makes him depth. I've seen people that caused a lot of problems with how to defend him last summer for sure. Yeah.
Man, yeah, absolutely. And I want to go back to what you said about like not just accepting his role, but like embracing it. And I think in this day and age, its role definition is all the more important and valuable on teams as guys are trying to be so many things they're not. But when you can find 5, 6, 7 guys for your rotation that all buy into and accept and are part of what you really need them to be. You look at Armando Bacot right now. He is like not a good 3-point shooter at this point in his life. And he's not trying to be. Like, I think he's got like 2 attempts this entire season. having someone like James Brown that's like, yeah, dude, I'm down here. You can find me in the paint. Come join me. We'll have a party.
Mm-hmm.
How important is that for Hubert Davis?
Well, that's huge. I mean, it's rare. Unfortunately, it's rare. So to your point, he doesn't accept his role. He's excited about it. And that's rare, especially it's rare when you're not ball in my hands. You got the neon green light, right? So I can accept that role. Yes. Yes.
You want me to shoot coach? Okay, fine.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Right. So, but when you're a big who's setting screens and you're getting, you have to depend on somebody else to get you the ball, or sometimes you got to be a glass cleaner and different things like that. You got to be the junkyard dog. When you can be excited about that, man, that's a guy you want on your team. And obviously, and when I say junkyard dog, I've said that to players in the past. I remember I said it to Montrez Harrell.
Yeah.
And he was like, what? I'm skilled, man. What you mean? I got skills. I was like, yeah, but you're making your money as a junkyard dog.
That's right. And he still lives in the NBA.
Right. And so, a lot of money too. Let me just throw that out there. But I think kids are starting to see that. Like, role players are out here winning in the league. They are very rich. So I think hopefully, this is what I believe, guys like James are seeing that, and they're like, let me be excited about this, because he stays within himself. He doesn't do things that he's not accustomed to doing, and he leans into his strengths. And I think that is unfortunately rare. Hopefully that's a new trend that we're going in the right direction.
Yeah. One of the concerns sometimes with guys in the paint is you worry about them being a black hole. It doesn't seem like that is a concern with James Brown. He is a very willing and effective passer. And I think for Hubert Davis, who is really trying to get this inside-outside game going, hey, let's draw attention into the middle so we can kick out, find shooters in space. Is that an accurate representation of his post-passing game?
Yeah, absolutely keeps the ball moving. He did that in the summer. Doesn't with St. Rita's. I mean, it's different. They're different roles. But yeah, he's not a guy. The ball is not going to stick with him. So he keeps the ball moving. Very high IQ guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I think everybody knows he's academic kid too. Great grades. High IQ guy on the court and off the court. So he knows the importance of keeping the ball moving, especially in y'all's system.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Well, and to that point, when you look at him actually committing to North Carolina, Chicagoland is not an area the Tar Heels have gone into very often. When in this battle was against like Mizzou and Notre Dame, Michigan State, Illinois. And when you read James Brown's decisions to come to North Carolina, there was a couple things that really stuck out to me. Was it's all about the relationship with Coach Davis that you already talked about how important his genuine person is, Coach Davis. And because UNC is more than just basketball, it is a highly, despite the AFAM issues from about a decade ago, it is a highly reputable academic institution. And it seems like both of those have coalesced to being the two main reasons why he is a Tar Heel.
Yeah. I mean, that stuff in the past, kids don't even remember that. You have to tell them, they'd be like, "What? I didn't even know that." And then when you tell them, it's not going to matter. I'd be like, yeah, anyway. So they almost won the title last year. So I think I could help them that's all they care about. Yeah. But I think that's, hand in hand. Like, North Carolina is an amazing academic school. And I mean, they're still a blue blood. I mean, they're one of 4 schools that are dream schools for all 5-star, top 5, top 10, number 1 players. So everybody wants the North Carolina offer. And, a lot of people envision themselves playing in North Carolina. So that hasn't changed. And it looks like, I always talk about, we've talked about this before, but, everybody has their time, where the tide turns and, you start to grab three 5-stars in this class, and you're grabbing 2 of the top 10 and stuff like that. It just looks like maybe this could be North Carolina's time.
Yeah. I mean, you still got guys like Jarin Stevenson out there and others who might
So we'll see. I mean, obviously time will tell, but I mean, we're living in the present. So
we are indeed
something to look forward to.
All right, folks, it is early in the 24 cycle, but as we said, right now, North Carolina has the number 1 class, Drake Powell, Elliot Cadeau, and now James Brown as well. That's it for today's episode of Locked on Tar Heels. We'll keep an eye on this class and in others and keep having our conversations with our guy, Jason Jordan. Coming up on tomorrow's show, Pat Kilby and I get you prepared for North Carolina hosting Wake Forest on Wednesday night. Make sure you follow the show on Twitter at Locked on Heels. Follow our guy, Jason, at JasonNC Jordan, and you can follow me at Isaac Schade. You can email the show as always, lockedontarheels@gmail.com. Please don't forget to subscribe, smash the like button, and leave your thoughts and comments on Elliot Cadeau and James Brown. For your next listen, make sure to check out Locked On Sports Today. Biggest stories of the day, instant reactions, big game recaps, and of course, the take of the day. Available right now on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever else you get podcasts. Hey, thanks so much for spending part of your Tuesday hanging out with Jason and me talking Carolina basketball. It's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. Until tomorrow, peace.